I'm Gary Kutak. I make good trouble in East Dallas. Because we live in Texanistan, you need that little glimmer of hope every morning. And so Daily Dispatch is absolutely, that's what you need. This resonates with me. You're not alone and you're not wrong. Almost 5 million Texans voted the same way I did. So what we need to do is go find them, shoulder and shoulder, and go make more.
It's Friday, February 21st, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. As we've talked about, state health officials in Texas have gone out of their way to conceal data related to how our state's abortion ban has affected women's health overall. And when the folks in charge want to keep something quiet, that's when competent, determined, independent media becomes so very important. ProPublica, the nonprofit newsroom specializing in uncovering power abuses and a frequent collaborator with the equally excellent Texas Tribune, have performed what they call a first-of-its-kind analysis, providing the most detailed look yet into a precipitous rise in life-threatening complications for women experiencing pregnancy loss in Texas since those bans began. They found that the rate of sepsis cases caused by delays in care increased by more than 50% for women hospitalized when they lost their pregnancies in the second trimester over that period of time. To make that a bit more clear, we're looking at a massive jump in the number of women whose bodies are allowed to approach failure in the midst of a doomed pregnancy because their caregivers are hesitant to use abortion procedures, even when the fetus is certain not to survive. This new report says that the standard of care for miscarrying patients in the second trimester is to offer to empty the uterus, which can lower the risk of contracting an infection and developing sepsis, which can lead to permanent kidney failure, brain damage, and dangerous blood clotting. Nationally, sepsis is one of the leading causes of deaths in hospitals, and in these cases in Texas, it would appear they are occurring unnecessarily as a direct result of vaguely worded policies from the state regarding abortion attached to draconian consequences for doctors should they violate them. Terrific work by ProPublica here. See the link in the show notes. We keep waiting for our representatives in the U.S. Senate, John Cornyn and Ted Cruz, to say something smart in response to Donald Trump's blatant lies about Ukraine, which themselves are parallel with talking points right out of the mouth of Vladimir Putin. James Liddell at The Independent says several Republican U.S. senators have called Trump's bullshit, notably including Senate Majority Leader John Thune of South Dakota, who says there's, quote, no question who started the war. Russia's the aggressor here, unquote. Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, who actually just visited Ukraine over last weekend, he says, quote, President Putin is evil and he has to be stopped, unquote. Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and John Kennedy of Louisiana have disagreed with Trump as well, but the most courageous thing John Cornyn's been able to muster up when asked if he'd agree with Trump's assertion that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is a dictator is, quote, I wouldn't use the same word, unquote. Ted Cruz is too busy sucking up to Elon Musk and playing with Musk's chainsaw to weigh in on the possible end of the world order led by the United States that has persisted since the end of World War II and is tantamount to a defeat for the U.S. in the Cold War against Russia. Still in D.C. here from the U.S. House, Austin Congressman Lloyd Doggett comments on the mass firings at the Internal Revenue Service that started yesterday as part of the Doge purge. KXAN-TV in Austin says Doggett worries that, quote, we could have delays in refunds. We'll see a reduction in enforcement so that some people who want to evade their taxes are able to do that, unquote. He expects hundreds of the 6,000 Austinites who work for the IRS to be out of a job in coming days. Republicans consider the IRS to have been weaponized against them. Go figure that the agency in charge of pursuing tax evaders might have a bad name amongst the wealthiest Americans. Ted Cruz tweeted earlier this week in a conversation with Elon Musk, quote, abolish the IRS, unquote. To the state capitol, where the Republican-dominated House has dropped its version of a private school voucher scam, and the Texas Tribune reports that it's significantly different than the plan dropped by the Senate just a few days ago, notably in that it ties the amount of money available for private school vouchers to the amount allocated for public schools only. In other words, connecting the voucher program's per-student benefits to public education funding so the amount available to each student would increase when public schools receive more money and conversely drop when public education funding declines. Republican Representative Brad Buckley of Salado authored the bill. He says he's trying to address the concerns among voucher opponents that they would deal a major financial blow to public schools. Austin Representative Representative James Tallarico, who's been key to that opposition, says Buckley's plan, which he believes falls short of bringing Texas's overall state school funding to proper levels, is, quote, wholly inadequate. It's insufficient. And when you pair it with the voucher bill, it's going to take far more money out of our schools than could ever be put in this session, unquote. Other longstanding concerns about vouchers, including the fact that this public money would not compel private schools to accept all students nor to follow federal and state accountability standards, remain unaddressed by either the House or Senate GOP voucher proposals. Sticking with schools here, we're starting to see information on Texas school districts that have adopted the religion-infused Bluebonnet Learning curriculum package approved by the State Board of Education last fall. Faith Bugenhagen at the Houston Chronicle says 6 San Antonio area districts, East Central, Edgewood, Harlandale, Judson, Southwest, and South San Antonio ISDs have all signed up. Round Rock ISD has adopted portions of Bluebonnet Learning, and Conroe ISD near Houston is on board as well. As you'll recall, there's a financial incentive to bring the Bible into your kid's classroom, and with state school funding where it is, that bribe may be too sweet to turn down for some cash-strapped districts. Speaking of Conroe ISD, another Faith Bugenhagen report from earlier this week notes that they've cut a popular and successful dual language program, much to the surprise and chagrin of district parents, and due in part to difficulty in hiring enough bilingual teachers for the paltry pay Texas ISDs tend to offer. Elon Musk wins again, while the Texas environment loses. Again, Sanford Nowlin at the San Antonio Current writes that without public comment, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or TCEQ, has unanimously denied requests from environmental groups and area residents to halt SpaceX's plan to discharge toxic wastewater from its Boca Chica launch site directly into nearby wetlands, in what opponents say is a violation of the Federal Clean Water Act. SpaceX has become a major villain in South Texas to long-term residents, and the advocacy group More Perfect Union has produced a terrific short documentary that provides an up-close look at what's happening down there. It's very well done and short, about 20 minutes. Find the link to that film in the show notes. It would appear that the worst of this cold snap is about over for most of Texas, and the fact that the lights and the heat didn't go out this time as actual news is telling for the state of confidence in our notoriously flimsy power grid. Oft-quoted Texas energy expert Doug Lewin tweeted yesterday, Thursday, quote, "Power demand is sky high at ERCOT this morning. This is the first time ERCOT has ever served 80,000 megawatts in the winter. We have a new battery storage record with 4,578 megawatts deployed. Once again, batteries are playing a major role to keep the heat on," unquote. Battery storage, you'll recall, is the key to making sustainable energy sources like wind and solar reliable all the time. And one last bit here on energy that might burn you Houston folks up a bit. Kyle McClinigan at Houston Public Media says that even while utility company CenterPoint Energy was completely screwing the pooch in the wake of Hurricane Beryl last year, they still managed to pull in over $1 billion in profits, not just revenues, profits, over a period when it failed to quickly restore power following Hurricane Beryl last summer, which was just a Category 1 storm, you'll recall, drawing the ire of even folks like Governor Abbott. Over $1 billion gravy, one unreliable energy company in one city. February is Black History Month, and Progress Texas Advocacy Associate Tatum Owens has put together a terrific essay on this year's celebration, including an extensive list of Black History Month events taking place across the state. See also in the show notes a listing of Black-owned businesses across Texas to support from the Austin American-Statesman. They range from Corpus Christi to Fort Worth to Houston to El Paso and more. Our funding at Progress Texas is rarely sufficient for us to plan very far ahead, but the conservative disinformation machine we oppose has no such obstacle. They're funded by oil and tech billionaires and religious right-wing activist groups. Our regular everyday listeners form a key component of our funding here at Progress Texas. If that's you, we could use your support as a monthly contributor, and no amount is too small. Go to progresstexas.org/donate. Thanks so much to Angela Kaiser, Camille Tucker, and Peter Sherrod, all three of whom are on the team. We appreciate all of y'all very much. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Friday, February 21st, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again on Monday.